The Alien Prophecy. Far away from Earth in a glowing blue star system, there lived a race called the Tellari. They were known for their advanced technology, cold logic, and emotionless hearts in their world. Feelings were seen as a weakness, but one ancient legend whispered of something different. A story buried deep in sacred scrolls. The prophecy said that one day an alien girl would carry a child of a human. And through that act, she would gain something no Tellari ever had. A human soul most. Tellari laughed at this story. They called it a fantasy for the weak. But there was one girl who didn't laugh. Her name was Lyra. Lyra was not like the others. She was curious, quiet, always staring at the sky, wondering what it meant to feel her. Instructors told her to focus on her duties, but she often wandered alone into the Temple of Origins where the old scrolls were kept. She would place her hand on the smooth stone walls and feel a strange heat pulsing from them, as if something ancient was alive inside. One day, the High Elder found her reading the scrolls again. He walked up behind her with slow footsteps and spoke in a voice heavy with age. "You read it again," he said. "The human soul prophecy." Lyra turned and looked into his wrinkled face. "I don't understand it," she said quietly. "How can an alien have a human soul?" The elder looked at her for a long time, then placed a bony hand on her shoulder. "Because you are the one meant to find out, Lyra." He said, "The prophecy speaks of you. Your name is written in the old tongue." Lyra stepped back in shock, her chest tight with something new. Fear maybe, or something else. At the same time on Earth, a young researcher named Leo had just been selected for an intergalactic peace program. He was excited. His job was to visit the Tellari homeworld, learn their culture, and share Earth knowledge. He was not a soldier, not a hero, just a kind boy with a love for science and a good heart. When Leo arrived on the alien planet, he was amazed. Tall silver buildings reached the sky and glowing vines lit up the night paths. He walked with other ambassadors from different planets, but he felt alone in the crowd. He kept looking around, trying to spot someone friendly. Then he saw her. Lyra stood at the edge of the gathering. Her eyes locked on him. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. Her gaze followed him through the entire tour. She didn't blink, not even once. Leo felt a shiver, but not of fear, more like curiosity. He waved. She didn't wave back. Later that night, Lyra stood in her room looking at her reflection in the glass. She had always been told she was cold like the others. But something was different now. Her hand moved to her chest where her heart was supposed to be. She didn't know what she was feeling, but it was strong and strange, and it started the moment she saw the human. She whispered to herself, "If I carry his child, maybe I will understand. Maybe I will feel. Maybe I will become something more." The next day she waited for him near the learning chambers. When he came out, she stepped forward without fear. "You are the human called Leo," she said, her voice. Even he smiled awkwardly. "That's me, and you are Lyra." She nodded. "I have read about your kind, and I wish to know more." Leo chuckled lightly. "Okay, sure. Where do we start?" Lyra didn't laugh. She only said, "Follow me." She led him through narrow paths to the old temple, the same place where the prophecy was carved. She stood by the wall and pointed. "This story says only one of my kind will carry a child with a human. And through that child, the soul will be born." Leo blinked, unsure if he heard her. "Right. I'm sorry." What Lyra looked at him calmly. "I believe that child must be mine, and you must be the one." Leo stood frozen, his mind spinning. He had read about alien rituals and strange customs, but this was something else. He looked into her eyes. They were serious and calm. But something behind them shimmered, something soft and almost scared. He didn't know what to say. So he said nothing. Lyra stepped closer and reached out not to touch him but to feel the heat around him. The same heat she once felt from the stone walls of the temple. She felt it again now, but stronger, inside her bones. That night, Lyra sat alone outside under the twin moons and whispered to the stars, "If I am wrong, I will remain empty forever. But if I am right, then this is the beginning of everything." And somewhere deep inside her, a spark was born, quiet and small, but alive, and it had never been there before. Would it become a soul? Only time would tell. The observation begins. Lyra had never followed anyone before. Not like this. She always kept her distance from others, watched quietly, never felt the need to get close. But with Leo, something was different. Every move he made, every word he spoke made her feel something strange, something heavy in her chest. She stayed out of sight, walking silently through the learning halls, hiding behind glowing columns, blending into crowds, her eyes always fixed on Leo. He did not notice her, not yet. But she noticed everything about him, how he smiled at the smallest things, how he helped a young ambassador who dropped her datapad, how he stopped to watch a bird-like creature land on a branch and then softly whispered, "Wow," to himself. Lyra did not understand why these simple things mattered so much. But the warmth she felt when watching him told her they did. It was as if her body was learning how to be human without anyone teaching her, just by watching him. One evening, she saw Leo sitting alone in the outer garden. He was holding a small hollow frame, a picture of something, a group of people laughing. Humans. His family. Perhaps he stared at it for a long time, not smiling, just quiet. Lyra stepped closer, staying in the shadows. She watched his face, saw the sadness. There. Why do I feel this weight inside? She thought as her hand moved to her chest again. Is this sorrow or something else? The next day she finally approached him again. Not like before, this time with a plant she held in her hands, a rare fruit from her world called Venari. It glowed with soft golden light and had a taste that made most Teliari feel nothing, but she had read that humans liked sweetness. She walked straight to him, her voice calm and even. "I bring this as an offering." Leo blinked, surprised, then smiled kindly. "Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you, Lyra." "Right," she nodded. "Yes, I wish to talk if that is acceptable. Of course, sit with me," he said gently, moving to make space on the stone bench. She sat stiff and silent, watching him take a bite. His eyes lit up and he let out a soft laugh. "Whoa, this is amazing. Kind of like mango, but glowing." She tilted her head. "Mango." He laughed again. "A fruit from Earth, yellow sweet. Kind of messy, but worth it." Her eyes locked onto his face, studying the lines near his eyes when he smiled, the way his shoulders relaxed, the sound of his laugh. It was nothing like the emotionless voices she heard all her life, and for the first time she wished she could make someone laugh like that too. "Why do you show kindness?" she asked, not as a test but with real curiosity. Leo looked at her, surprised. "I don't know. I guess that's just who I am. It feels good to be kind. Makes the world better, even if it's just a little." She thought about his answer for a long moment, then finally said, "Do you think it's possible to learn emotions?" Leo raised an eyebrow. "That's a deep question, I think. Yes, maybe not like a formula or math, but with time and experience." "Yeah. What if someone has no soul?" she asked, her voice softer, almost whispering. "Can they still learn to feel?" Leo looked at her seriously. "Now, I think everyone has something inside, even if they can't see it yet. Maybe they just need the right moment or the right person." The words stayed with her long after she left the garden that night. Lyra stood under the same twin moons thinking about his words. Her hands pressed together, as if trying to hold the feeling in her palms. In the days that followed, she continued meeting Leo each time she brought something from her world. A music box made of crystal, A wind plant that danced with sound, a book of Teliari poems. He always reacted with wonder, with joy, and even with tears once. When he read a line about loneliness, she had not known it could move someone that way. But Lyra also began practicing human gestures in secret. She watched Leo shake hands, nod when he agreed, smile when pleased. She tried to copy them in front of her mirror, but something always felt off. Her eyes were too still, her mouth too stiff. One day she asked him, "Will you teach me to be human?" Leo chuckled again. "That's not something I can teach, but I can share what I know, and you can decide what it means to you." And then something unexpected happened. He offered his hand, not as a joke or custom, but real warmth behind it. She hesitated, then placed her hand in his. It was warmer than she imagined, rough but gentle, and when their fingers touched, something sparked like energy passing through her skin straight into her core. She pulled her hand back quickly, her face unreadable, but her mind was racing. Later that night, she stood before the temple, again, her fingers lightly touching the same prophecy wall. "He smiled at me today," she whispered. He shared his warmth. "Maybe it has begun. Maybe my soul is not waiting to be born through a child. Maybe it's waking up now." But she could not forget the last line of the prophecy. The child is the key, and in her mind a new question formed. Do I need him to love me, or just to give me life? She did not yet know the answer, but she was willing to find out no matter what it took. The failed experiment. Lyra sat alone in her quarters. The lights dimmed the air, silent around her. Her hands were busy placing objects on a table, but her mind was somewhere else. Every image of Leo, every sound of his voice lived inside her now, like it was carved into her bones. She stared at the strange items she had collected from Earth's cultural archive. A small candle, a fabric called blanket, a bottle of human perfume, a wooden box that played music when opened. It was all part of her plan, a plan to understand what humans called emotion, what they called connection. If she could copy everything about human love, maybe she could feel it too. Maybe the soul would grow faster. Maybe she wouldn't have to wait for a child. She positioned the candles around the room, then placed the blanket carefully on the floor, arranging 2 cushions in the middle, like a human living space. She sprayed the perfume once in the air and let the strange floral smell settle around her. It made her eyes water, but she endured it. She called Leo with a message. "Please come to my quarters for a shared cultural experience." He replied simply, "On my way." When he entered the room, he froze. His eyes scanned the scene slowly, then stopped at her. She stood there wearing a loose Earth-style robe, her hair pulled back, her posture stiff like a machine trying to act warm. Leo blinked and scratched his head. What is this?" "This is what I believe humans call romantic atmosphere," she said without expression. "Do you approve?" Leo stepped in slowly, his eyes still wide. He looked at the candlelight, then at the floor, then back at her. "Is this for real?" She nodded, completely serious. "I studied human media. I learned that this setting increases feelings of intimacy and emotional openness. I wish to recreate it with you." Leo rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Lyra, I appreciate the effort, but this feels kind of forced. Are you okay?" She looked at him confused. "I followed all patterns observed, lit candles. I selected items you like. This is supposed to make the soul grow." "The soul doesn't grow from copying romance," Leo said gently. "It comes from feeling it, not acting it." She tilted her head. "Isn't that the same thing?" "No," he said quietly, then sat on one of the cushions. "Listen, I know you're trying, but this feels like a scene from a show, not something real between us." Lyra looked down for the first time. Unsure, I thought if I made the moment right, the feeling would follow. Leo gave a sad smile. Emotions don't follow rules, Lyra. They sneak up on you when you least expect them, like when we were in the garden or when you brought me that fruit. Those moments felt real. Her chest felt tight again, but not the same as before. Now it burned with something heavy. Maybe shame or failure or confusion. She couldn't name it, but it hurt. I made an error, she said softly. I wanted to accelerate the process. I thought a soul could be built like a machine. Leo reached out gently, touching her hand. It's okay. Trying means something. Maybe that's emotion too. She looked at their hands again. Just like before when they first touched, the warmth was there. But now it felt different. Not magical. Not glowing. Just real. She pulled. Her hand back stood up and blew out the candles one by one. I will delete this experience from record. No, Leo said quickly. Don't delete it. Remember it. Not every moment is success. Some are just lessons. She paused for a long second, then nodded, slowly, her eyes not meeting his. Later that night, she stood alone again this time. Not at the temple, but in the mirror. She looked at herself and saw not a Telyari, not a soul-seeking girl, not a machine, but someone trying to become something more. She removed the robe, stared at her markings, the glowing lines of her species across her arms and shoulders, and whispered, I thought love was light and comfort, but maybe it's confusion. Maybe it's pain. Maybe it's falling and standing again. The next day, she did not wait for Leo. She walked alone to the learning hall, took a seat among other species, and watched their faces the way a furry alien child laughed when he spilled juice, the way an elder hissed and clicked when annoyed, the way two friends leaned on each other when tired. None of these moments had candles or music or scripts, but each one felt more real than anything she had staged last night. She did not speak much that day. She only watched, but this time not as a hunter, not as a planner. She watched like someone who wanted to understand, not conquer. And deep inside her, where nothing used to exist, a space began to open, not because of romance, not because of touch, but because she failed. And maybe failure was the first true emotion she ever felt, one she would never delete again. The confession. Lyra sat by the glowing lake alone. The water shimmered under the moons like it carried secrets. Only the stars could understand she had not seen Leo in 3 days, not since her failed attempt to recreate love, not since she tried to copy something humans called natural. But something had changed inside her, not because of candles or plans or copied gestures, but because of her failure. It left a scar, not on her skin, but somewhere deeper. A quiet ache that returned every time she closed her eyes. That ache was not weakness. It was proof. Something inside her was growing. She rose slowly and walked toward the research dome where Leo worked. She knew he would be there even if he had avoided her since that night, even if he had questions he did not want to ask. When she entered, he looked up surprised. His hair messy, his face tired from hours of studying Telyari biology. But when he saw her, his expression softened a little. Hey, Lyra. You okay? He asked gently. I need to speak with you. She said, her voice low but steady. I need to tell you the truth. Leo blinked, then stood and moved closer. He nodded silently, letting her speak. From the moment I read the prophecy, I believed it was my path. She said I believed I could not feel unless I carried a child with a human. Leo's face froze, but he didn't interrupt. I thought the child would give me a soul. She continued. I believed emotions were locked behind some wall, and only that one act would break it open. Her eyes dropped to the floor, and when she looked up again, something shimmered behind them. Not tears, but something close. But I was wrong. Leo tilted his head. What do you mean? I have already begun to feel, she said quietly. And I did not need a child to start it. I just needed you. Leo's breath caught in his throat. Lyra, I do not understand everything she went on. I do not know if what I feel is love or longing or simply pain. But it is real, and it is mine. And I will not pretend anymore. He stepped closer, eyes serious. What are you trying to say? I want to know you, not for a prophecy, not for a child, not for an experiment. I want to know what it means to be with someone, because it matters. Leo stood in silence for a long moment, then sat down on the edge of the desk, motioning for her to sit. Too she did, slowly keeping her hands in her lap. That's a lot to take in. He finally said, But thank you for being honest. She looked up at him, the smallest flicker of worry in her eyes. Do you believe me? He smiled. I do. She nodded once, then asked a question that had haunted her for weeks. Do you think I can really have a soul? Leo leaned back, thinking hard. I don't know what a soul is really. Not in scientific terms. But I think if you're asking the question, if you're caring enough to wonder, maybe you already have one. Her breath caught, not because of shock, but because something inside her lit up like a silent answer. But Lyra, there's something you should know, he added carefully. She waited. Not everyone will understand us, he said softly. Not your people, not mine. Some will say this isn't right. Some might try to stop us. I know, she replied, and you still want this. She looked him in the eye. Yes. Leo looked down at his hands, then back at her. Well, then I guess we figure it out together. A quiet moment passed. Not heavy, not awkward, just peaceful. Like the calm after a storm. But peace never lasted long on Telyari soil. That very evening, the High Elder summoned her to the temple, his eyes sharp and voice cold. You were seen with the human again, he said. You spoke the old words, you revealed the prophecy. I did, she answered with no fear in her voice. The elder's face twisted. You are walking the path of destruction. You risk everything for a myth. It is not a myth, she said. I have changed. You are not one of them, he shouted. You are. Telyari. We do not love. We do not feel. We do not mix our kind with theirs. I do feel, she said quietly, and I will not deny it. He stared at her long and hard, then spoke the sentence that echoed in her bones. You are no longer welcome in the inner circle. Your name is removed from the scrolls. Lyra bowed her head not in shame, but in calm understanding. Then she turned and walked away. She returned to the lake where Leo waited. She sat beside him close, this time not afraid of what it meant. They did not speak for a long while, only watched the water glow. I told them everything, she finally whispered. And they cast me out. I'm sorry. Leo said. I am not. She replied. I feel sad, but I do not regret. And as the stars turned above and the night deepened, Lyra looked up and said softly, If this is pain, I accept it. If this is love, I will learn it. But no matter what it is, know it is real, and maybe that is enough to begin a soul. Forbidden touch. Lyra stood outside the research dome, the night air colder than before, her hands tight against her sides. Her skin still carried the echo of the High Elder's voice, cast out, no longer part of the Telyari inner circle. Her name erased from the sacred records, her future uncertain. But deep inside she felt something strange. Not despair, not fear. It was calm. It was strength she had not known before. And that strength had a name. Leo inside the dome. He waited for her, pacing slowly near the data screens. His mind full of questions, his heart full of something heavier than curiosity. When Lyra finally stepped in, he turned quickly, his eyes searching hers. "What happened?" he asked gently. "They stripped my name," she replied quietly, her voice calm, her eyes steady. Leo stared for a moment, then stepped forward, his hand rising slightly as if to reach for her, then stopping halfway. "Are you okay?" he asked. "No," she said simply, "but I am becoming something new." She looked at his hand hanging in the air, not sure what to do, then slowly lifted her own and placed it in his. It was the first time she touched him without fear, without a plan, without prophecy. It was just her hand in his hand. Warm skin on warm skin. No mission, no goal, no secret, and it felt right. They stood like that for a long moment, neither speaking, the silence between them, saying more than words ever could. But outside the dome, eyes were watching. Telyari guards stood hidden behind the tall glowing trees. Their orders clear. If the alien girl disobeyed again, if she continued contact with the human, she would be taken. One of the guards whispered into a calm, "She is with him now. Shall we proceed?" "Not yet," came the cold reply. "Let her dig her own grave." Inside the dome, Lyra finally pulled her hand back and looked around at the glowing machines. The quiet hum of human technology and alien design mixed together. "I want to leave this place," she said softly. Leo blinked. "Leave where?" "Not this room." She clarified, "This planet. This world of cold rules and empty rituals." Leo stared at her, stunned. "You want to go off?" "World." "Yes," she said. "I want to understand life, not just study it, and I want you to come with me." His heart skipped a beat. "You want me with you? You are the only one who saw me not as an experiment, not as a tool, but as something real." Leo hesitated for a moment, then smiled. A slow, quiet smile. "I would go anywhere with you." Suddenly, the door slammed open. 3 Telyari guards entered, fast and cold, their weapons raised, their faces unreadable. "By order of the High Elder, you are to be taken into custody." One of them barked at Lyra. "You have broken sacred law again." Leo moved in front of her, arms wide protectively. "Wait. You can't just take her like that. She is no longer protected by the council," the guard growled. "Step aside. Human, no." Leo said firmly, "I won't let you touch her." Lyra stared at him, her chest heavy, her mind spinning. This was not part of any prophecy, not written in any scrolls. This was not destiny. This was something else, something bigger. Love, maybe. The guards moved closer, one grabbing Leo's arm, trying to pull him back. He struggled, but they were stronger. "Let him go," Lyra said, her voice low but firm. The guard ignored her until a loud, sharp sound rang out. A burst of energy from a nearby console exploded with sparks. She had hit the override panel with her bare hand, releasing an energy pulse that shut down the lights and shocked the room into darkness. In the confusion, she grabbed Leo and pulled him through the back corridor. They ran through winding halls, alarms now echoing across the complex, red lights flashing over their heads. "Where are we going?" Leo asked between breaths. "Somewhere they can't find us," she replied. "I know a place." They exited the dome and entered the lower forest. The trees tall and glowing, the sky above, dark and full of stars. She led him to a hidden opening under the root of a tree, an old maintenance chamber no longer used. Inside, they sat on the floor, breathing hard, his arms still around her, her hand still holding his. "I could have let them take me," She whispered. But you didn't. Because you stood in front of me without fear. And it made me feel something stronger than the law. Stronger than the scrolls. Leo looked at her quietly, then asked softly, "What do we do now?" "We escape," she said. "We leave Telyari space. We find a world where no one knows us and we live." "And what about the prophecy?" She looked him in the eye. "I no longer care about the prophecy. I care about you." He reached up and touched her cheek gently for the first time, and she did not flinch. Outside, the stars kept spinning. The planet kept turning. But inside that small hidden chamber, something had changed forever. An alien girl touched a human, not for fate, not for science, not for soul, but for something she finally understood. Choice. And it was the most human thing she had ever done. The soul awakens. The sun was rising over the quiet edge of the Telyari forest. Golden light slipping through, the blue leaves birds with crystal wings flying overhead. Lyra watched it all from the hidden chamber deep under the roots, her head resting gently on Leo's shoulder, her eyes open wide as if seeing the world for the first time. They had not spoken much since they escaped, just soft whispers, soft touches and silence that felt peaceful. Not empty. For the first time, Lyra did not think about rules or prophecy or sacred scrolls. For the first time, she simply listened to her heart. She did not know when it had happened, but something inside her had changed. Not all at once. Not like a switch, but slow, like water melting stone. She had felt pain and joy, regret and peace, longing and fear, and now something new. Hope. Leo stirred beside her. His voice, soft. "Good morning, still alive?" She smiled a little. "Yes, still alive." He looked at her, eyes red from lack of sleep, hair messy, face smudged, but somehow still shining. "I think we need to move today. They'll be looking for us. I know a way out," she said, softly. "But I need to take you somewhere first." He raised an eyebrow. "Where the ancient heart of Telyari, the place where the prophecy was written, the place where souls were once said to be seen." She stood and offered him her hand. "Come with me." He took it without question. They moved through the forest carefully, quiet and alert, her knowledge of the land, guiding them through hidden trails and under thick vines. The temple ruins came into view, old and broken, but still full of strange glowing light. "This is where I first read your name," she said, pointing to the stone wall. "It said a Telyari girl would bear a child with a human and gain what was once thought impossible, a soul." Leo stepped closer, running his fingers along the old carvings. "Strange," he whispered, "and powerful." She nodded slowly. "But now I think maybe the scrolls were wrong. Or maybe they only saw part of the truth." "How so?" She turned to him, the wind brushing her white hair across her face. "Maybe it was never the child that created the soul. Maybe it was the choice to love. Maybe the soul awakens the moment someone stops living for rules and starts living for meaning." Leo looked at her with soft eyes. "I think you're right." She stepped forward and took both of his hands. "I do not know what comes next. I do not know if we will be hunted or if we will ever be safe. But I know one thing." He waited. "I have a soul now, and I feel it when I'm with you." Leo leaned in slowly and placed his forehead against hers. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just the quiet closeness of two hearts finally touching. But the moment was not theirs for long. The sound of ships echoed above, breaking the silence like glass falling from the sky. Black crafts marked with the crest of the High Elder circled the ruins, light scanning the ground. "They found us," Leo whispered, grabbing her hand again. "We have to run." "No," she said. "Not this time. I'm done running." He stared at her, stunned. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "This is where it began. This is where it ends. The ships landed, and the guards marched forward. Weapons drawn, the High Elder himself stepped down. Robes flowing, eyes burning with rage. You defy your blood, your race, your gods. He shouted. What you feel is illusion. What you have done is betrayal. Lyrea stood tall. No, fear in her voice. I am not afraid of your words. You will be punished. The elder growled you and the human both. Leo stepped in front of her again protectively, but Lyra gently pulled him back. She walked toward the elder slowly and pointed to the wall. Behind him, the one with the prophecy. Look again. She said, not with your eyes, but with your fear. The elder glanced at the wall, then back at her confused. The prophecy was never about power or control. She said it was about breaking what cannot be broken. The wall inside us. You are sick. The elder spat. No, she said calmly. I am awake. At that moment, the old wall behind her began to glow, a soft light pouring from the carvings. The ancient stone, responding not to blood or status, but to truth, to feeling, to something real. The guards hesitated, weapons, lowering, eyes widening. The elder stepped back as if the light itself pushed him. What is this? He whispered. This is soul, Lyra said quietly. Not something given, not something forced, but something born. When someone chooses love over fear. She turned to Leo and reached for his hand again, this time without hesitation, this time with a smile. The light spread over them both. Not burning, not loud, just gentle and warm, like morning sun on cold skin. The guards did not fire. The elder said nothing. And for the first time in Teliari history, silence meant surrender. Later that evening, Lyra and Leo left the ruins together. Not as fugitives, not as enemies, but as something new. Not prophecy, not legend, but real. And as the stars opened above them, Lyra looked up and whispered with a voice that now held laughter and tears and everything in between. I am alive, I am whole, and I am finally human. The child and the choice. The ship floated gently through open space, silent and calm, a small vessel traveling far from the Teliari homeworld. Stars blinking like distant memories behind it inside the quiet cabin. Lyra sat near the viewing glass, her hands resting on her stomach, her eyes full of something new, something bright. It had been many months since she and Leo escaped from the ruins, since the temple glowed with ancient light, since the prophecy no longer controlled her life but became part of her story, a piece of the past, not the rule of her future. Now they lived far beyond patrol zones in the outer rim, where old space stations slept and forgotten planets drifted. They built a new life, slow and quiet and peaceful. Lyra no longer worried about sacred laws or glowing scrolls or Teliari judgment. She had something stronger inside her, and it beat louder. Every day Leo entered the room carrying a warm drink, his eyes tired but happy. He walked over and sat beside her, looking down at her gently growing belly. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded. The baby kicked again. It is strange, but not painful. Just curious, like the child wants to know the world already. Leo smiled. That sounds a lot like you. She tilted her head like me. Yeah, he said. You always wanted to understand everything. You never ran from truth. Even when it hurt, I used to think I needed this child to grow a soul. She said slowly. But now I know I had it all along. I just didn't know how to feel. Leo nodded. You didn't need a prophecy. You just needed space to feel safe. I found that space with you. He leaned his head on her shoulder, their hands meeting over her stomach, the quiet rhythm of new life between them. They did not know if the child would be more human or more Teliari or something else completely. They only knew it would be loved truly and fully by both of them. That night, Lyra sat alone again at the viewing window, watching stars pass slowly across the black sky and thinking deeply. In the beginning, she wanted to become human. She studied behavior, copied voices, chased after rituals. She thought love was an equation and a baby was the answer. Now she knew love was not something you make. It was something you choose again and again, even when the future was unknown, even when fear tried to pull you back. She looked down at her belly softly and whispered a message. Not to a god, not to a scroll, but to the tiny life growing inside her. You are not a tool. You are not proof. You are not prophecy. You are simply you, and you will be free to choose your own story just like I did. Suddenly, the alarm lights blinked once. A low hum vibrated through the walls. The ship was being hailed. Someone was calling them. Leo rushed in from the next room, checking the controls. It's a Teliari ship. He said their signal is official but weak. Probably diplomatic. Not military. Lyra stood slowly, heart steady. Open the channel, she said. The screen lit up, showing the face of a young Teliari female. Her voice soft. I greet you, Lyra. Of no circle, we have been searching not to punish, but to understand. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Explain. Since your departure, the Elder Council has fractured. Many now believe you were right, that the old ways are hollow without truth. The story of your soul has spread across the starnet. Even those who once hated now ask questions. Leo looked surprised. So they're not here to take her. The young woman shook her head. We are here to ask permission to learn. We want to know what you felt, how it changed you, how it might change others. Lyria breathed slowly. The same people who erased her now wanted to listen, not control, just listen. She did not reply with anger or pride. She only said gently, maybe one day I will return and speak with you. For now, let me raise this child in peace. The young woman nodded with deep respect. We will wait, and she ended the transmission. The screen turned black again. The ship silent once more. Lyra turned to Leo. I think something big has started, not just in me, not just in us, but across the stars. He took her hand and kissed it gently. Maybe the soul is not one thing. Maybe it's a flame that spreads when people dare to feel. She smiled. Not her polite smile, not her practiced one, but the true smile she had learned slowly through pain and hope and love. As the ship floated onward and the stars moved around them, Lyra rested back against the seat, her eyes heavy, her body full of life, her heart full of peace. No more scrolls, no more walls, no more searching. She had everything she needed. A soul, a partner, and soon a child born not from prophecy, but from choice.